If you've ever wanted to learn more about West Africa, its culture, and specifically its dance, you don't have to cross the Atlantic to do so. The local nonprofit organization Afriky Lolo is doing just that, teaching the St. Louis community about West Africa through dance and performance. Please stay with us next on City Corner as we learn about this unique and one-of-a-kind organization. Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson and welcome to City Corner. Today we're speaking with Diadie Bathily. He's the founder and executive director of Afriky Lolo. It's a nonprofit organization here in St. Louis that teaches the St. Louis area really about West Africa through dance and performance. So Diadie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I've seen Afriky Lolo perform and it's absolutely amazing. And a lot of people know you in town as a dance company, but Afriky Lolo is a full nonprofit organization. Why don't you tell me about it?
Well, Afriky Lolo is an African dance company, and so when I got in U.S. and started teaching in different places in the community and university, and then I said, you know what, we have a lot of people with amazing potential about African dance and art. Let's create a dance company based here in St. Louis, which is going to represent Africa and be able to teach about African dance culture, history, and even language. Mm-hmm. So, and they came to me to be able to create that company and entertain people, and at the same time to educate them about African history and culture and what is going in Africa, instead of learning Africa through TV.
Right, so there's the performance aspect, there's the dance company, which performs throughout town. You perform at Coca, at Forest Park Community College, at various venues, but then the organization also teaches at different schools. So why don't you talk a bit about the outreach component of the organization?
Yes, we teach, we teach African dance in the community and also in schools. So the schools usually they look for like something fun, something about education, and the same times to be able to have a kind of exercise. So African dance was perfect to be able to sell to the schools during PE, have them dance, because African dance, it's physical, and at the same time they're learning about the culture and the language. So after that, all of the schools,
yes, we see in those photos, yeah.
Absolutely. And after the first year with the school, they want to have African dance about two times or 3 times of the residency in the school during the year. And also the community, if I take Learning Tree Center, and they have after-school program. So we come in with the drumming and the dancing to be able to not just entertain the kids, but teaching them about the dance, about the culture, about the discipline, and also about how we live in Africa using pictures and video to be able to educate the kids about Africa.
So you mentioned briefly sort of how Afriky Lolo came about, but let's talk a bit about your background, where you're from originally, how you came to the States, and then how that sort of career in teaching took off. So why don't you tell me a bit about your background?
Well, my both parents are from Mali, and I was born in Ivory Coast and grew up between Mali and Ivory Coast. I started to dance in both countries. And then I went to EDEC. EDEC is École de Danse et d'Échange Culturel, which is School of Dance and Cultural Exchange in Ivory Coast. And the director is Rosemary Guiro. She lives in New York and choreograph and perform. So, and then after Ivory Coast, I went to France and then teach there, perform. From France, I came to America So, and it's just amazing to be able to have this African background and the European background, and then come to America. It's been about 10 years now. So I think I have a lot of a mix to be able to help the kids or adults using my background of Africa or Europe or America.
So you've taught, when you first came to the States, you taught or St. Louis, I should say. You taught at University of Missouri, St. Louis, at UMSL.
Correct.
Then you moved to Coca. You've also taught at Webster and WashU. So what was the impetus for starting Afriky Lolo, considering you're pretty busy teaching at different institutions and universities throughout the area?
Yes, it was a kind of a challenging because African dance can be used in different ways. If I take like a university, Washington University, which is and I still teaching a dance course there, and dance and music at Washington University, which was a kind of different from UMSL teaching African dance through the culture lab, and different from Coca teaching African dance because people just want to exercise.
Right.
Different from the schools where you gotta talk more about the culture, the physical, and how in Africa people get the physical workout. Not even thinking physical workout is part of everyday life in Africa. And different from WashU, which is the course. So you gotta do more research to be able to give more tests to the student. So it's amazing where, you know, you gotta think about a different area and a different subject to be able to reach people.
So let's talk about the company then and its members. How would you describe the composition, the people who are in the company, and how many dancers do you have actually in the Afriky Lolo Dance Company?
Well, Afriky Lolo, we have 3 different groups. We have the children, and we have the teens, and then we have adults. All of them are Afriky Lolo, but we divide in 3. So because we believe in Africa, everybody dance, and in your age, you can be the best. So we have the children company, and then we have an apprentice, and we have students. So each company is divided by 3 because we really want to tell them to improve and telling them where they're standing and to be able to improve and get to the company one day. So we have like one of my students, Ella, who started as a kid, and today she's in the teens company, and then when she became adult, she's going to make to the company easily.
Right,
so we start just like a ballet training. You have to start somewhere and keep improving about physical and also about the African dance and history.
Because your students go from the children's group all the way up to, don't you have a dancer that's quite like 60 years old or so?
Yes, we have a dancer 60 years old, and I wish I can name her right now.
No, it's okay, it's all right. No, and that's not to call her out, but I mean, considering the physicality of West African dance, I mean, it says a lot that the company has such a range of dance, even the adult company has such a range of dancers. And some of these dancers are people are pre-professional, professional, who've come from other backgrounds, other disciplines in dance, and others are people who've just been working with you then for a long period of time, right? Is that correct?
Yes. There are some people who started dancing with me as an adult who never done African dance or any type of dance before because we were afraid. And so through the dance, the rehearsal, starting as a student in Afriky Lolo, they started to improve and trust more themselves as adults. It is just amazing how you can change an adult, and some adults start like a kid. Inside of them, you can see they are very afraid about anything. And as soon you open up, you see this amazing light coming out of them. And they can use that disciplinarity, that system of learning everywhere, even at work, in their office.
I wanted to ask you from now, you're a founder of a nonprofit, you're the director, executive, and really artistic director, but at a time right now when the economy is not very good and, you know, nonprofit organizations, specifically arts organizations, are taking a hit. How does Afriky Lolo fit into that? What have been some of the challenges most recently or the past couple of years with the downturn in the economy?
Well, the economy definitely is hurting everybody, and it starts with art. Art is very hard, and you have to think very smart, and you gotta look at the kind of, in never had it's a good thing, it's hard, the economy is tough, it helps to create more, and we gotta be able to reach the kids, be able to reach the parents to reach their friends, to another friends, to be able to have them to our performance. And if they don't support us, that's where we are falling. So we even ask the parents to come to dance with us, not just to be able to connect with them. So the connection helps them to have them involved and value more and have a kind of a following. And if we don't have following, that's going to be very hard about the economy, about the attendance, and about everything. So,
do you think there's a perception in St. Louis that, or I guess a misperception that people aren't quite clear with West African dance? I mean, or do you feel that the community is pretty tapped in and supportive of what you're doing?
Yes, St. Louis, after being here, and there are some teachers in St. Louis being really affected in very good way about West African dance. So as soon as we have a performance, people are there. And we had a performance in March, and we had a huge storm. I was surprised to see people at the performance. I was really surprised to see them coming wet. It's that shows how they love the program and they're supporting it. And I wish there is another Diadie, because there are so many people gotta be touched. They want it, they love it, but they don't know where to find it, and we gotta go to them. That's where we need a lot of support.
No, that's good to hear that the community is supportive of it, because sometimes, you know, in the arts we struggle here in St. Louis to really have a consistent support for that. So that's good to hear. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're actually going to be speaking with Ayla Green, who is a student who started off as a student with Diadie, and she's now a teen dancer in the teen dance company and with Afriky Lolo. So please stay with us on City Corner. Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome back to City Corner. We've been talking about West African dance, specifically Afriky Lolo, a nonprofit organization here in St. Louis that is a dance company, but it also promotes West African dance and culture throughout the area. I've been talking with Diadie Bathily, who's the founder and executive director, and now I'm joined by Ayla Green, who's also a dancer, a teen dancer with Afriky Lolo. So Ayla, thank you for joining us as well. Before we get into talking about your experience with dance with the company, Diadie, I did want to sort of highlight again that you work with children, you work with teens, and you have specifically actually a performance that's coming up in May, and I just wanted to make sure we get that information and for people to learn about it. So tell us about this performance in May.
Well, the performance at May, it's we have all of these kids are from St. Louis. They did audition for the kids and the teens company. They got in. The youngest today, she's 2 years old and a half.
Two and a half. If you go to this performance on the 21st, you will see a 2.5-year-old dancer doing West African dance.
And she's unbelievable. She even asked when is her cue to go on stage. You know, it's just amazing. You have to come and see those kids performing, and You will be in Africa for an hour. It's just amazing to see all of those kids from St. Louis being on stage and be able to put the amazing choreography, costume, lights, and drumming. It's just unbelievable.
So as young as 2.5, all the way up to, for sort of Ayla's age with the teen group, what does that go up to? Some of your dancers?
All the way to 15 years old.
15 years old, roughly. So there, and I do want to note that all your costumes you sort of hand make or you import them from West Africa. There's tons of props from West Africa.
Yes.
So it really is the full, and the live drumming.
Yeah. Live drumming and the costume from Africa, some are being made here because we don't want to make easy for the dancers and the parents just going to the store and buy the costume. That's
Sure.
not the way it's done in Africa. In Africa, you have to make your costume. So some coming from Africa, some being made here by the kids and the parents working together because again, to be able to teach them about African culture and language and how we live in Africa and have the parents involved because with the whole Afriky Lolo, it's not just us, it's to have the community involved in the performance or outside of the performance.
There really are lively performances. I mean, I've seen the company perform numerous times, and there's really nothing like it at all. There's so much excitement. The music, the drumming, from kids to adults, it's very lively and dynamic. Ayla, I want to get to you because I appreciate you coming here to join us. Your situation is unique because you've been dancing with the company for a long time. So how old are you currently?
I'm 15 now.
Okay.
So I've been dancing with the company since I was about 7.
7 years old. So tell us about your experience with Afriky Lolo.
Well, I really look forward to it. It's just like a big family. We like to play around, but we also like to get work done for like our shows. So we go, we have fun, and I don't know, it's just fun to be around.
I mean, when you started at 7 years old, was it because your mother or parent was like, you're going to do West African dance, or was it something that you wanted to do? Where did the interest sort of come from?
Well, I got to know Mr. Diadie at Coca. That's the first time I saw him. It was at like a workshop, and it was just really appealing to me. It looked really fun. I was already taking ballet and tap, and it was just something different. So I was really excited to jump in and dance with Mr. Diadie.
So do you feel when you're taking it in terms of learning about Africa and West Africa, I mean, what has your experience over the past, 6, 7 years, what has it taught you about Africa? Do you feel like you want to travel to Africa now, or?
Yes, I do, actually. But it's like when I first started, there's like this thought in your mind that there's only one culture and like there's only one type of dance. But throughout the different countries in Africa, there's different types of styles that you have to, pick up the technique. So there's a wide range of types of dances you could do. So that's pretty fun to look forward to.
So you've learned about specific within we say Africa or West Africa, but that's a lot of countries. So you've actually learned a lot about sort of West African culture and history as it relates to each individual culture or even tribe, probably. So what do you tell your friends? I mean, are people look at you and they're like, why aren't you doing ballet or tap or hip hop or something?
Kind of. Well, it's kind of like weird at the time to like tell them because they're not used to it. It's not like one of the most common dance styles, but they're actually pretty excited to come watch me dance and see what it's all about.
You have a really, something that's quite unique. You started, because of this experience with working with Diadie and Afriky Lolo, you sort of started your own kind of nonprofit, if you will. I don't know if it's a registered 501c3, but tell me about what it is that you do, because you raised money for children in West Africa as a result of as a result of being involved in West African dance.
It's called the Cookie Company, and I started it about 3 or 4 years ago. And pretty much I just had this idea to help Mr. Diadie and help, where he comes from, because they might be having a rough time and need a little pick-me-up. So me and my mom, we bake cookies and brownies and things, and then we sell them to like our family and friends. And then Mr. Diadie and me, we come up with a way to, put the money towards going to Africa.
Wow, that's really neat. So how does that make you feel, hearing Ayla, someone that you've known since she was like 6, 7 years old, and now she's clearly a teenager in high school? How does it make you feel that this has impacted her, not just as a performer, but just on a personal level, that to be so conscientious?
Well, I think I feel good about it, and I feel like let's keep going about this organization. And I would say this idea, it's almost like the fruit coming from the organization. And she been doing this. Her mother is putting a kind of a fundraising for the company to be able to help the organization. So starting from here and see her as reaching people in Africa, I think that's amazing, and that's what we're looking for, to have to inspire the kids. And creating her own business. When she's an adult, she's going to have her own business and be able to be free and not be afraid of anything. She's going with something, and we gotta support her.
No, I think that's fantastic. I do want to, when you look at the company and you see the performances, you will notice that the majority of the members are African American. I know there's some, the drummers are from Africa, and some of the dance company, especially the sort of higher dancers, professional dancers, are actually from Africa. But let's specifically talk about your work within the African American community. I know that that's been important to you, and I wanted you to expand on that a bit. And I also wanted to ask Ayla that as well. But first, let's start with you. I mean, what sort of, you focus a lot on working with African Americans, and I want to just talk about that experience.
Well, working with African Americans, you know, sometimes, most time, I feel like I'm home first, you know. It's great about the environment, also the energy. And sometimes it's just amazing to be able to see somebody from look like, sometimes I say, oh my God, this child look like from Africa, you know. And as soon start to talk to me in the dance class for the first time, and the whole behavior is totally different. And I said, wow, no, this kid is not from Africa. But it's just amazing with the time to see that kid, because it start to be right away defensive, which is totally different in Africa, you know, and it defensive from who and why. And I said, well, it depends the kind of a neighborhood or the parents, or anything, something is going on. So it's just amazing to be able to change that kid. And it reminds me of Afriky Lolo or myself going to the prison, a juvenile detention, where you have all of those teenagers in prison, and performing for them and seeing them saying, you know what? When I was outside, I never had that much fun. It's amazing. I said, you know what, when you get out, please find us, and we will make sure that happiness you just got will keep going. And it's just amazing working with African American. You have a lot of kids or adults, different issue, and the dance and drumming and the culture and our energy come in there to be able to change in very positive way. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. And Ayla, I mean, for you, do you feel that you're sort of getting in touch with sort of your heritage and past, or is there a disconnect? Is it really not an issue?
I have, just like learning where my the people in my family have come from and what they did, or you know how they got here. But you know, it's just learning about the past is what I got out of that.
No, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said, because it's not like African history is taught necessarily in curriculum, especially for elementary education and high school education. That's usually something you have to learn about when you get to college. You learn about American history, and we of course learn about slavery, but we don't learn a lot about West African history, and this is a really interesting way to do it. I did also want to talk about your work outside of, you know, in schools throughout the different areas, because you're having a summer camp this summer out in West County. So you work with all types of students, and I do want to be clear that all your members come from various backgrounds. So I do want to make that clear, but talk about the summer camps and what you have going on with outside of just the dance company this summer.
Yeah, the summer camp, this is the third summer, the third time we're offering this summer camp. It's called Camp Africa. So Camp Africa is a very fun camp for the kids, and the kids will learn, of course, the dance is very important. They learn the music, the drumming, They learn how to make their own costume.
Okay.
They learn to make African houses, because they will be dancing from a house coming on stage, and they will be learning everything like we are in Africa. That's the whole thing. So they can even think about like going camping. You know, it's going to be something like that. But it's amazing camp for the kids. And at the end of the camp, we're going to have a performance, and the parents, for them to come to see what the kids will learn, what they made, what they learned from that camp. And it's a good camp for the kids to be this summer.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. It's certainly a different kind of, it's a different kind of camp. I mean, as we start to wind down, I wanted to ask you, what do you hope for the future of Afriky Lolo? Where would you like to see, not just the dance company, but the organization as a whole, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What really is your projection and your hope for the future?
Well, the future, I really want to have a center, and that center to be able to teach about, in general, Africa and African dance and culture. And to be able to help even some of the teachers, not to correct me or saying, Africa is a country. No, it's a continent, So seeing that coming from some of the school teachers, so it tells me how far we gotta go with Afriky Lolo, and how many people we gotta attach. And to be able to do that, we have to have a bigger organization, and not just only in St. Louis, but in every city where you have a lot of African American, a lot of people who want to learn about this second biggest continent, which is Africa.
All right, well, that's a great note to end on. Diadie, thank you so much for joining us. And Ayla, thank you for taking time, we won't mention from school, but to join us as well. And if you want to learn more information about Afriky Lolo, we have the information coming up, but go to their website, afrikylolo.com, and be sure to check out their performances, not just in May, but throughout the year. They have some amazing, amazing performances. So thank you again for joining us, and thank you at home for watching. I'm Sarah Thompson for STL TV.